All right, everybody. So we have Brad Loomis with us today. He's been on the show. He was actually one of the first podcasts we did, and he's back today. So welcome, Brad.
Yes, thank you for having me again, Dave. I'm surprised that you had me back.
So we were saying it's been a while now. You were one of the first ones. I think we talked last the end of September, early October. And for that one, we had my charity donation go towards St. Jude's for children's cancer research. And we agreed today that's where my donation would go again, right?
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And so the reason I reached out, or one of the reasons I reached out, was I saw this kind of new series that you have on the 3DMJ channel, kind of talking about your comeback here. And so we briefly kind of talked about what happened. You previously had a rib injury, but that you mentioned that didn't completely keep you out of lifting. So what's been going on that requires you to have this kind of entry back into things?
Well, I had to take a layoff post-surgery. And the exact surgical procedure that I had was the repair of an inguinal hernia. Mm-hmm. So the inguinal hernia made itself known to me about April or so, I want to say, March or April of this year. And it was during a workout. I was just doing, some heavy-ish deadlifts, but nothing extreme, Mm-hmm. And it just felt, a little strange down there on my left groin. Thought maybe it was just, some muscle that hadn't been worked in a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I proceeded to work out with real no issue, just have that little strain down there. And I don't even know what made me look down there, but I just went into the bathroom, looked down there, bared down and braced really, really hard. And sure enough, both sides just bulged out right above my pubic bone. And for those who don't know what an inguinal hernia is, guys, they have a separation, in their pelvic muscles where I can't remember what exactly the ligament it is, but it pulls the testicle up and down. Mm-hmm. And it goes through those muscles right there. And in some guys, it's inevitable. It's going to happen, at some point or another. Not all guys, but it's very prevalent. And it just so happened that it happened to me. The visceral fat that's inside of your abdomen, that kind of your intestines are swimming around in, when you bear down and brace, they go through those little separations, in those muscles right there. And so what I had to have done in order to repair that was they sew a mesh inside of the abdominal wall. And it's kind of graphic to explain exactly how that's done. But basically what they do is they put 3 tiny little incisions. So it's all done laparoscopically. Mm-hmm. Through one of those incisions, they basically put an air hose. And they blow up your abdomen full of air, and it pushes all of your intestines and all of your abdominal organs way up to the top of your abdomen so that they can work down there. And then through another incision, they put the scope the doctor actually sees through. And then the third incision is where he can put his tools in and out. So they'll put the mesh through there. They'll put the little tool that they, spread the mesh out. And the mesh is actually sitting inside of the abdominal wall. And he said basically it's roughly, if I recall correctly, either a 0.5 or a 0.05% chance of it reoccurring, regardless of what you do, once they put that mesh in.
Awesome.
So if I recall correctly, I had to have that mesh put in, I think it was the end of April, maybe the beginning of May, something like that.
Okay.
I could not lift anything greater than 20 pounds for about 4 or 5 weeks, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And in the 5th week, I had my follow-up appointment with him. I was feeling pretty darn good, and I was itching. To get training again. Yeah. So he gave me clearance to just do nothing but 20 pounds. So I'm doing 20-pound front squats and, 20-pound dumbbell, presses and just ridiculously lightweight. But I got going that 5th week, which I think was sometime in June, and, kind of been going gangbusters ever since.
Yeah, awesome, man. And just, I don't know, I mean, right now you've been saying you've been getting back into it, so obviously you're not just lifting the 20 pounds anymore. But just for reference, what were your all-time best lifts, let's say for the big 3, and what are you able to do currently?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So most powerlifters, we have kind of gym PRs, mm-hmm. and we have competition PRs, right? Right. Now, ironically, my gym PR and my competition PR and the deadlift are the same.
Okay.
It's 252 kilos, so that's what, like 556 pounds, I guess. My gym PR in the squat is 480 pounds.
Okay.
Competition, I think it's 460.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I'd have to look it up. I never pay attention to the competition ones. I always only pay attention to the big ones, the gym PRs, right? And then my bench press is in the gym. It's 150 kilos, which is about what, 330, I think.
Yeah.
And then on the platform, it is whatever 137.5 is, 308, 301,
Okay.
something like that. I have to get my calculator out, but it's
Yeah.
just over 100 pounds basically.
That's awesome, man. And what weight class is that in?
That was in a different set of weight classes, I guess you might say. So in other words, the squat and the deadlift were both in the 83 kilo, which is 183 pounds.
Yeah.
And then the bench press was at 74 kilos, which is 162. So
Yeah,
I'm
solid.
those that actually benches better when he's lighter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would make your gym PR almost a double bodyweight bench press, man. That's awesome.
Yep. Correct.
Very
And if
cool.
only I was 162 pounds when I had that gym PR, right?
Right, right. So at this point, like, are you able to lift remotely near that as you're recovering? I mean, where are you at now with those lifts?
Yeah, not really, not really. And to be honest with you, Dave, I'm taking my time with it. I
Sure.
could do more. I know I could do more.
Mm.
I have not used the straight bar deadlift yet. I'm only using the trap bar.
Okay.
And my plan was to start obviously extremely light, like, you know, brand new infant in the gym light, and then just basically progress and load from there.
Yep.
And obviously I was not going to be able to do 20 reps, you know, with heavier and heavier loads. So I just let the reps fall. Whatever they end up is wherever they end up. And sometimes I leave one in the tank, and sometimes I leave, you know, 3 in the tank. But the lifts are always going up. So far, I've only done the trap bar deadlift. And that's kind of my high volume day, or what I call my high volume day. I just did 403 pounds for 10 reps.
Okay.
So I'm still 150 pounds off of what I, you know, can do and have done before, right?
Yeah.
My squat, I've dramatically changed the technique because my rib injury that I had prior to surgery was aggravated by the low bar squat.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing was changing my technique such that I could squat and not have it aggravate that injury. And so I'm doing what's essentially a high bar squat with my hands on each collar. Both, there's just kind of against one plate on one side and against the other plate on the other side. And the bar is just kind of really, really high up on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I've worked up to 350 for 4 on that. So that's still 100 plus pounds off.
Yeah. But you're getting for reps, so.
Exactly, for reps. Yeah, I haven't even tried a 1 rep max. That's probably still another month or so off.
Mm-hmm.
And then my bench is up to 260 pounds for 4 reps.
Okay. Nice, man.
Yeah. But they're getting there. They're getting there.
Yeah, they're getting up there.
But it's come a lot further than it is where it's going.
Right. So for people who, I mean, certainly in your situation specifically, but also generally, when dealing with an injury like that, where, I mean, for a while you're just completely out of it, what are some of the methods that you implement or recommend maybe the clients implement in order to come back from an injury?
Well, I think universally, do it like I did it. You know, start ridiculously light.
Yeah.
Obviously, we cannot preempt what a physician says.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever the physician says goes. And sure, my physician said I can't lift anything greater than 20 pounds. Somebody else's physician might say 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I can't say, oh, well, this doctor told me 20, you should be able to do 20. I can't do that, right?
Right.
So you just have to start ridiculously light. Start with what the bare, I guess, maximum that your doctor will let you do. Mm-hmm. And then once you're cleared, just progress from there in a very, very slow manner. I mean, most of us have been training for, you know, 5, 10, 15, in my case, 20 years, we don't got to get back there tomorrow. We're going to be training for another more, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, just slowly progress from there. Now, obviously, what worked for me is probably not going to be, or what I did and what I thought would be recommended for me may not be recommended for somebody else.
Right.
I'm a pretty advanced lifter. I've got 25 years under my belt. So I just essentially did a whole body training session four times a week.
Mm-hmm.
One's a compound movement of the lower body. One's a compound movement of the upper body. One's a compound movement pulling motion, and then all the rest are just isolation movements. And I do that every day. And it's usually 4 lower body movements, 4 different pressing movements, 4 different pulling movements, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And then like I said, I just kept bringing the loads up. Now, somebody else that's more beginnerish, right? Maybe they were only training for 3, 4, 5 years in the gym, then they had this injury or they had this surgery or something like that.
Yeah.
That certainly would work, but I don't know that I would recommend that, or say that that's maybe optimal, because they've still got some newbie-ish type, progression that they can kind of milk out of that. So they might do more like a body part split, where they do chest Monday, legs Tuesday, something like that, And with more recovery, maybe they can progress a little bit faster. With me, I was training the body parts 4 times a week. So I can just let my progression go super, super slow. Because I'm going to reclaim lost muscle just through the frequency of doing that kind of training. I don't really have to push that hard, right?
Yeah.
Whereas maybe somebody else is doing a body part split, they get that 7 days of recovery before they hit that muscle again. Maybe they can push things a little bit faster if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's always amazing how fast beginners can progress. Even if, you had an injury, you'll come back from that and be so much stronger. I think my sophomore year of high school, and I was dieting and coming back from an injury, and over like a 3-month period of that, my arms were still growing because I was just such a beginner. I was like 130 pounds or something at the time. So relative to where I was still able to progress. I would agree with what you say about following doctor's orders, not even necessarily because I think they're always right, because frankly, a lot of the time, depending on the doctor you're seeing, they will just kind of give a blanket recommendation. I think Eric Helms even talked about this, where after his surgery, I think a couple of years ago, and he asked the surgeon, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And then when they explained it, he was like, oh, so you had originally said, no working out. But now I've actually, because of the questions I've asked, we've determined I actually can do, machines. I can do this and that. And so I think it's good to ask the doctor. A lot of times they won't have, necessarily an exercise science background. But just from a, I guess, a legality standpoint, or we don't want to be giving out advice saying to disobey your doctor, So, but I would still say ask them why the recommendation is what it is. Maybe there are things you can do that aren't going to affect the injured area.
Yeah. And that was basically what I asked him. I said, so what can I do with 20 pounds? He goes, anything you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even went so far to say, okay, so if I do dumbbell curls, I got to do 10 in each hand, right? Because that's a total of 20 pounds. He said, no, you can do 20 pounds in each hand. And I said, well, that's actually 40 pounds.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, it's one arm. So he didn't even really know.
When I hear that, you're like, okay. So, but if you were to ask him, can I do a 40-pound barbell curl? He might say, oh, no, I'll stick to 20 pounds. It's just it's not necessarily logical.
Squat, or a 40-pound deadlift,
Right. Yeah. So how have you been dealing with it psychologically? I think when you've been doing it for so long, it probably doesn't seem like as big of a deal. Maybe if you were 5 years in, you were at like the peak of your competing, maybe 10 years in, you might take it a lot harsher than somebody who's doing it for 20 years and just knows that this is just a blip on the radar. But how have you been dealing with it psychologically?
Fine, really. I don't think I've had any issues at all. I have had to show a lot of restraint, so I know I can do more.
Sure.
And so I've just made myself just take it slow.
Yeah.
I will say that here as of late, like over the last probably couple of weeks, I have been a little bit discouraged.
Okay.
And it's essentially kind of what we were talking about earlier. I'm up to, 300, I don't 50 pounds for my squat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the last training session I did where I think I used 340, both of those loads felt surprisingly heavy.
Yeah.
And so naturally I'm thinking to myself, okay, I just squatted 350 for 5 reps. And that 5th rep was like, it was
Really
hard.
Yeah.
Really freaking hard. And so in my mind, of course, I'm thinking to myself, well, if 350 is that hard now, how in the world and when in the world am I ever going to get back up to 450, 480, like I've done before? I mean, I remember the last time I squatted 405. I did that for 4 reps.
Yeah.
So it's like, if 350 is heavy now for 5 reps, how in the world am I ever going to get to 405 for 4 reps?
Right.
And so that's been kind of hard to deal with in a way. It's been kind of one of those things where it's like, damn, it could take me a long time,
Yeah.
to get back there again. And
this
even
was after how much time off, you said?
well, I mean, essentially 6 months maybe, because even prior to the surgery, I knew I shouldn't lift heavy, because that thing, I could reduce it, that fat would come out of that little inguinal crease right there.
Yeah.
And I just push it back in, right? But I didn't want to make a habit of that.
Sure. Yeah.
So that month or so leading up to the surgery, I had to kind of just take it easy, kind of take it light. I didn't deadlift at all. I was doing belt squats, instead of regular squats. Lots of leg extensions and leg curls, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably been, the better part of half a year, I'm going to say now.
Okay. Well, how long have you been back to the lifting, you said? Like above
Probably,
20 pounds?
Yeah, till a couple months, basically.
Okay.
So I wouldn't even consider what I did in June much in the way of lifting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was probably getting more, appropriate loads for me middle to end of June. So you're looking a couple months probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, until this past winter, I never took more than a week off. Like in 12 years, I literally have not lifted for more than a week. But due to a few reasons, I had to take off. I was out of the gym for a full month, but I had to kind of go light for another month after that. And it really did take me about the amount of time that I took off to get it back. I mean, it took a good 2, maybe even longer, maybe even 3 months to get. Now, I didn't lose like that much. It wasn't super dramatic, but 5-10%, and it was a pretty slow progression back to where I was. I think a lot of times people talk about, muscle memory, it's going to shoot back up. And I mean, you're not going to lose everything, of course. I'm sure you look physically probably pretty similar. I doubt that your physique changed too much, but it does seem like you got to really be in the groove to get back to that peak.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, the one thing that we haven't even talked about is we haven't even talked about like nutritionally and what I'm doing at body weight, right?
Yeah. Go for it.
In my own skin, I'm a little bit heavier than I would like to be, but at the same time, I'm fighting the urge to try and drop some weight. You know what I mean? Really fighting the urge, because it's in my mind, it's like, why are you trying to undermine the very thing that you're trying to do, and that's reclaim that muscle and strength that you lost during all that period of time. And if I'm trying to lose weight through a caloric deficit, that's only going to take what it is that I'm trying to do even longer, right? Sure. So yeah, there's that struggle too. There's kind of that internal struggle too. I mean, I still look like I lift, but I'm just a little bit on the heavy side. You know what I mean?
What's your weight up to?
It's up to probably, I haven't checked it in a couple of weeks, but the last time I did check it, I was about 203.
Oh, okay.
And I'm certainly not the 183 pound lifter that I was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I'm not going to say that I'm not dumb enough, but I'm better. I'm smart enough to know better than to try losing weight right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's this fight inside of me. Let's lose some weight. Nah, let's not.
Yeah. I didn't realize you walked around that heavy. I mean, because you look so relatively lean. The face looks lean and everything. I didn't realize you got that heavy.
I have not been this heavy in probably 14 years, Dave. I
Oh,
cannot
wow.
remember the last time I was the last time I vividly remember being 200 pounds or over 200 pounds was 2005.
Okay.
So it's been that long since
Yeah.
I've been down.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of one of the harder parts right now is just trying to deal with, being 200 pounds and not being, that lean guy that I'm typically used to being that
Right.
can just whip his shirt off, whenever and be comfortable. Now
Right.
I'm a little more hesitant to go whipping my shirt.
And you're how old are you now?
I am 40. I will be 48 in October.
Okay. And Jeff is also 48, right?
Jeff just turned 48. Yeah, Jeff's only about 4 or 5 months older than me.
Okay. So, have you noticed any changes with that? Maybe like a slower recovery, or maybe you are heavier in part because, the age, any changes in metabolism, anything like that? I mean, I don't think metabolism actually changes that much, just with a few years of age, but have you noticed much in terms of that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when I was even in my low 40s. And keep in mind, my lifestyle was a little bit more active. 3 days a
Hmm.
week, I was running around a hospital, pushing patients around, getting CAT scans of them.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit more active. But I remember vividly just being able to stay sub 185, sub 185 pounds, eating 3,000 calories a day on
Hmm.
average.
Yeah.
Some days were 2,500, some days were 3,500, but like 21,000 calories a week. I
Hmm.
could just stay 185 pounds or less eating that. And it's certainly not that now. Like I've done audits every now and then, and now we're looking at like an average of like 2,200 calories a day.
At your current weight?
And I'm actually staying about 200 pounds
Wow.
eating that now, So, you're looking at what? Just over 10 calories per pound that
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
able to sustain this weight on, at least that I know of. I haven't weighed
Yeah.
myself in weeks. I don't think I've
Yeah.
dropped down into 190s. My weight belt is still fitting the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a combination of age and then also just not being as active. I just feel like I doubt it's my metabolic rate. I think it's
Hmm.
more so just I don't turn over calories like I used to.
Yeah.
I used to run around a lot. I used to be a lot more just physically active. Um, and so if that 800 calories a day that I've lost as far as maintenance, quote unquote, calories, it's probably like 90% activity, 10% metabolic slowdown from age,
Yeah.
right? But I that doesn't bother me really.
Yeah. Well, your
I know
appetite probably isn't super high, I would imagine.
it's not, and even if it is, I know how to deal with it.
Right.
I just kind of, if I'm hungry in the morning, I get one great big meal, and then I don't eat as much at
Yeah.
night. If I'm super super hungry and I end up eating two big meals,
Mm.
I'll just eat a little bit less the next day. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I mean, typically I don't usually eat until I get home from church in the morning, which is like 10 o'clock.
Right. Right.
Just have something real quick, and then I'm in bed at usually 9.
Yeah.
So I take that 2,200 calories and squeeze it into a like 11-hour period, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
which definitely helps. I mean, almost like the principle of intermittent fasting. I mean, really, a lot of people kind of do almost an intermittent fasting style diet without thinking about it. Like you said, you get up, you do some things, you end up eating 10 hours of the day, and all of a sudden now it's called intermittent fasting. Um,
Exactly.
but even for me, I mean, I'm 28, and I actually do notice a difference in my appetite compared to when I was like 20, 21. I mean, I
Mhm.
used to eat a ton. Like I could eat a ton. I never had like a fast metabolism, but like if I had cheat days or something, I would really enjoy them, and I would eat a ridiculous amount of food. And I just don't even have the desire for that anymore. Like even when I'm dieting, I'm just like, I'll have a big meal and I'm just like good, which is honestly, it's a nice thing because it wasn't, I probably had an unhealthy, like not, I don't say obsession, but kind of like a view on food when I was younger. And now I really don't have the desire. The appetite's already kind of gone down. But I was going to ask you, do you notice when you guys are training people who are in their 20s versus, let's say, their 40s, and you have to bring them into maybe contest condition, maybe even just kind of like beach lean, are you finding pretty significant differences in the extremes you have to go to with the older population?
Um, I have to kind of do a mental audit of
Yeah.
my clients in my head, right? Because I do have a client that's my age, and he just competed. He's going to be competing here again in a couple weeks. We got him very shredded.
Yeah.
He got fourth in a stacked lightweight class of 6 competitors down at the Mayhem. Had striated glutes. He was legally shredded. And I don't think that his calories were very low, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I know they're not as low as mine.
Yeah.
But it seems
Even
to me,
towards the end of the diet?
even toward the end, I don't think we really had him that low.
Wow.
I could be mistaken. I've got my computer right here in front of me and I could look, but I want to say that it was just a little bit lower than where I am. Like roughly 2,000, maybe some 1,900 calorie days.
Yeah. A lot of cardio involved?
Not bad when you're a 148-pound male that's 50 years old.
Not at all.
That's actually not bad at all, So it wasn't like very extreme. I think where I see the majority of where we have to get extreme is small humans.
Yeah.
Male or female, to be honest with you. They get below 120 pounds, that's when we got to start having like 900 calorie days.
Yeah, sure.
In order to keep that fat coming off. Now, do we live there? No. We might visit there for 2-3 days, maybe have a couple 1,000 calorie days and then maybe a 1,200 calorie day and then start it over again, But, I cannot say globally that all 50-year-old humans that are all the same weight, universally have to diet on very low kind of extreme calories. You know what I mean? Even this
is there any
gentleman
difference in the need for cardio with age or still not really so much?
Small humans, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Because we can't live on 900 calories a day and weight train. I don't care if you are 100, 120 pounds, So yeah, we do have to a lot of times kind of pull that card out. That's why I like it when clients come to me and they don't do any cardio. Yeah. Or not doing any cardio, because we can utilize that tool and actually have it work, right?
Sure.
And yeah, this gentleman here that I just was speaking of, we did have him start doing a little bit of cardio. Not a whole lot. We quantified it as about 320 calories a week that he burned.
Okay.
His calories are not that low. They're like 1,900.
Yeah. Wow.
And 26, and this is a 50-year-old, 155 pound male. So
that's what he competed at?
Yeah, he competed at about 150 pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't say that's universal.
Yeah, if you look at Jeff, I don't think he's done anything too different now compared to like 10 years ago in terms of his like bringing his calories or cardio or anything like that.
He does have to do it, but he always has done this. He's done a lot of activity.
Yeah.
He goes on. He rides a stationary bike for a couple hours, or he walks for a couple hours every day, or he's riding a bike for a good hour a day. He's riding his bike. He tries as best he can to keep that activity level up, his steps up, etc.
Is he kind of like a moderate intensity, or is he going pretty slow?
Yeah, just slow, slow pedaling. Kind of enjoying the sunrise and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that he has to get low at times. I don't think he has to get like 1,300 calorie low. I haven't seen the numbers obviously, but I know his high days are up there.
Yeah.
Because he'll talk about 300-400 grams of carbs. Well, shoot, there's 1,000 calories right there from carbohydrate alone.
Right.
So yeah. I don't think I've answered your question very well.
No, you did. It seems like I think there are certainly some changes people notice with age, but I think it's not as dramatic as people make it sound like in like media. Like you said yourself, maybe 10% of it is actually your basal metabolic rate slowing down. Everybody thinks, oh, my metabolism's so much slower than when I was a kid, and it probably is slower. But it's not just that it's slower; it's that you're not doing nearly as much activity. It's that your nutrient partitioning is not as good. Maybe just you have more fat and less muscle at a given weight. You see that a lot of the times. It's like, oh, I'm the same weight as I was in high school, but they don't look anything like they did in high school, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that muscle
is
super active tissue. So.
Right.